Hi, welcome to Storytime with Gigi. Today we're going to be reading a Disney Pixar Monsters Inc. storybook collection. Our story today is from Monsters University. It's called Teaming Up. Sully and Mike Wazowski. When Michael Wazowski was a young monster, he went on a field trip. His class visited Monsters, Inc., where the top scarers in Monstropolis worked. These brave monsters went through special doors into the human world. They risked their lives to collect screams from dangerous human children. Then the screams were changed into energy for the town of Monstropolis. Mike watched a scarer open the door to a child's bedroom and followed, even though he wasn't supposed to. He stayed hidden as the scarer made the child scream. Afterward, Mike got into trouble for sneaking into the human world, but he didn't care. He decided he wanted to be a scarer when he grew up. He'd go to school where the scarer had gone, Monsters University. Mike worked hard, studying and training until he was accepted. On the first day of college, Mike's bus pulled up in front of the gates of a beautiful old campus. Wow, Mike breathed. He was finally at Monsters University. Mike checked out the clubs. There was an art club, an astronomy club, and something called the Scare Games, a contest in which students competed to see who was the scariest. On the first day of classes, Mike went to Scaring 101. Who can tell me the principles of an effective roar? Professor Knight asked. Mike started to answer, but just then, roar! Another monster surprised everyone. Good thing I didn't go all out, huh? He said. The monster who had roared was named James P. Sullivan. His friends called him Sully. Scaring came easily to him, so he never studied. He was only interested in having fun. Mike, on the other hand, studied every night. He didn't want to fail his final exam. If he did, he'd be out of the scaring program. Mike and Sully were not friends. On the day of the final exam, Mike and Sully began to argue. Then they got into a roaring face-off. They roared and snarled and growled. Soon everyone was watching, including the head of the School of Scaring, Dean Hardscrabble. Sully knocked over a scream. It held the record-breaking scream Dean Hardscrabble had collected in her scaring days. The canister hit the floor. Ah! Hardscrabble's scream was gone. Dean Hardscrabble decided to give Sully and Mike their final exam. Mike began a shadow approach with a crackle holler. He got ready to scream when Dean Hardscrabble stopped him. I've seen enough. Then it was Sully's turn. He didn't wait to hear about the child he would scare. Roar! Hardscrabble was not impressed. This particular child is afraid of snakes, so a roar wouldn't make him scream. It would make him cry, alerting his parents, exposing the monster world, destroying a life as we know it. I'm afraid I can't recommend that you continue in the scaring program. She turned to Mike. What you lack is something that can't be taught. You aren't scary. Mike was crushed. How would his dream of becoming a scarer ever come true? The next semester, Mike remembered the scare games. If he could prove to Dean Hardscrabble that he had what it took to be a great scarer, maybe she would let him back into the program. All he had to do was find a fraternity to join so he could compete. There was only one option, Uzma Kappa, a group of misfits who weren't exactly scary. But Dean Hardscrabble had made a deal with Mike. If you win, I will let your entire team into the scaring program. But if you lose, you will leave Monsters University. The problem was Uzma Kappa needed one more member. Anybody else want to join? Mike asked the crowd who'd gathered for the games. The star player has just arrived, Sully announced. Mike was not happy. He and Sully moved into the Uzma Kappa house and met Don, Art, Squishy, Terry, and Terry. In the opening event in the Scare Games, the first team to make it through a tunnel of stinging glow urchins would win. The last would be out of the Scare Games. That as fast as you can go? Mike asked Sully. Just getting started, Sully replied. Mike and Sully tied for second, but they'd left the rest of their team behind. Uzma Kappa came in last. Luckily, another team was disqualified, and Uzma Kappa was still in the games. Sully didn't think Uzma Kappa had a chance. Uzma Kappa made it through the next challenge, but everyone except Mike and Sully wanted to quit. The other teams were making fun of them. We're built for other things, Don explained. Mike decided to take the gang to Monsters, Inc. As they watched scarers of all shapes and sizes, Mike realized something. There's no one type of scarer. The best scarers use their differences to their advantage. Mike and Sully realized they'd been acting like jerks. We could be a great team, Mike said. We just need to start working together. Uzma Kappa was more determined to win than ever. Mike trained them hard. They made it through the Don't Scare the Teen and the Hide the Sneak events. They were finally a team, and Mike was using all his scaring knowledge to lead them. Sully ran into Dean Hardscrabble. Tomorrow, each of you must prove you're undeniably scary, she pointed at Mike, who was out of earshot. Do you think he's scary? Sully was upset. Mike was smart, talented, and the hardest working monster he'd ever met. But he was also small, friendly, and not exactly scary. Suddenly, Sully was worried. He really wanted his team to win, and tomorrow was the final Scare Games event. The big day arrived. There was just 2 fraternities left, Roar Omega Roar and Uzma Kappa. The monsters had to scare a robot child. One by one, the teams faced off. In the end, it came down to Mike. Roar! Mike got a perfect score. Uzma Kappa had won the Scare Games. Then Mike discovered that Sully had cheated. He'd changed the settings to easy during Mike's exam. You don't think I'm scary? What was I supposed to do? Let the whole team fail? Sully replied. Mike wanted to prove he was scary. He snuck through a door into the human world. He ended up in a camp cabin filled with dangerous children, but they didn't think he was scary either. Mike was really upset. Sully snuck through to get his teammate, but Mike wanted Sully to leave. After what had happened, Mike didn't think he was special. I try to give people what they want, but all I do is let them down, Sully told Mike. You're not the only failure here. Mike was surprised. How come you never told me that? Because we weren't friends before, Sully explained. Mike realized they had to go back to the monster world. Suddenly, camp rangers appeared. Mike and Sully raced to the door they'd come through, but it wasn't active. Mike and Sully teamed up to frighten the rangers. They clawed the floor, slammed the door, toppled the bunk beds. Then Sully roared. It was such a big roar that the rangers' screams created enough energy to make the door come back on. Mike and Sully made it back to Monsters University, but they were kicked out of the school. Luckily, their teammates got to stay. Mike and Sully made a great team. Before long, they'd gotten their first jobs at Monsters, Inc. They hoped one day they could work on the scare floor. And that's our story. I hope you liked it. Make sure that you like and subscribe and share with your friends. Bye until next time.